Well, first off, thank you very much for attending our webinar today. My name is Jonathan Spitzer, and I'm the director at Alpine Ascents International. I'll be moderating our webinar today, along with helping with the question and answers. We're thrilled to have you join us today as we explore one of the most iconic peaks in the world, Aconcagua, also known as the Sentinel Stone and one of the 7 summits, rising at just shy of 7,000 meters above sea level. Leading our discussion today is none other than Rachel Molstad. She is a senior guide and resident expert of Aconcagua. Rachel has been a full-time guide for over a decade with an impressive background of specializing in high-altitude guiding, leading over 200 trips above 6,000 meters. Today, she'll be sharing her insights and experience on Aconcagua, offering a deep dive into what it takes to tackle this mountain. Her presentation will take around 45 minutes, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat and we can try and answer them at the end. We'll also record this webinar and post it on our blog in about a week or two. If you have any questions and we don't get to answer them today, please just email us at climb@alpineascents.com. And here we go. So once again, Rachel Molstad, Senior Guide at Alpine Ascents. Please take us away, Rachel.
Thank you, Jonathan. Give me just a sec here and I'll get the screen share going and we'll dive right in. All right, there we go. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. And we're just going to dive into what it takes to climb Aconcagua, if that might be a good fit for you. If you're signed up, a whole bunch of helpful tips that'll hopefully help you prepare over the next few months before the Aconcagua season starts. See, it's hard to say when you're nervous. Aconcagua. Aconcagua stands at 22,841 feet, and it is the highest peak in South America. And it is also then one of the 7 summits and the highest peak anywhere in the world outside of Asia. So it's a pretty special peak and fits in a pretty special spot in the mountaineering world. It's always fun to sort of take a step back and look at where a peak sits in the world geographically. So Aconcagua is a part of the Andes mountain range, and the Andes run all the way the length along the western side of South America from Colombia all the way down to the tip of Chile and Argentina. And you can see Aconcagua pointed out there with a little arrow. It's bordered by the Pacific Ocean on the western side, and then the plains of Argentina on the eastern side. And one of the pieces that's really interesting is you have the Pacific Ocean from the peak to the ocean is probably about 80 miles as the crow flies. And then from where we start out in the town of Mendoza on the plains, it's about 2,500 feet all the way up to the peak. As the crow flies, it's probably only about 60 miles before you get to an elevation at 23,000 feet. So the terrain there is just really impressive and very unique and worth seeing and exploring. It's a special spot. If you are thinking about planning a trip to the Andes, South America, Argentina is a very accessible spot to visit, and it is a country that feels really friendly and welcoming when you're there, and it's pretty easy to connect to and travel to the country in itself. And then Aconcagua, as I mentioned, is a really unique mountain in the mountaineering world because you can get up to almost 23,000 feet without ever traveling on a glacier. So you get exposed to what really, really high altitude feels like, different pieces of learning about being in cold weather, all those bits about being on a really high altitude mountain without actually being camping on a glacier, roped up, traveling across glaciers, some of those more technical pieces that you would normally find at that altitude. So it's a great stepping stone if you're looking towards peaks further on, things like Denali or things you're moving your way towards climbing in the Himalayan mountains. It's a really good stepping stone to build in those pieces bit by bit without kind of jumping in all at once to too many pieces. And we have a bunch of information on the website about the required skills and climbing level that you should have before attempting a trip on Aconcagua. But I'll just read you part of what's on the website. It's while technical skills are not necessary, it is strongly recommended that climbers should have completed our Cascades 6-day beginning mountaineering course, a Mount Rainier or Mount Baker summit climb, or the equivalent so you arrive with crampon and climbing experience. So what that means is for folks, a lot of times we'll have folks who have climbed something like a Kilimanjaro. They've gotten all excited about mountaineering and high altitude, and they're looking towards something like Aconcagua. And you should know that Aconcagua is a big step up in difficulty in the sense that you will be benefited a lot by having had your own some backpacking experience, that you know what it feels like to carry 45 to 55 pounds day after day, to arrive to a camp, get set up that evening after having done a hike with that weight on your back, and then the next morning pack things up, move on and do that again the day afterwards. So there's, doing that in a bunch of different kinds of weather and conditions. Some of those pieces will very much help you along the way towards being ready for Aconcagua. It's also really, really helpful to have some simple experience with crampons. It doesn't have to be anything that is very technical or difficult, but just some basic experience being with crampons on and walking with those and what that feels like. So some of those pieces, there's a lot more information about how to train for a trip like this on the website. There's an entire section that is very, very detailed that speaks about the kind of weight that you should be able to carry at what kind of a progression in elevation gain per hour with that weight on, and a bit more about what kind of the physical requirements are. But there's a basic there, what you would be looking for. On days 1 and 2 of your itinerary, you're going to be traveling into Mendoza, Argentina, that town we mentioned on the east, on the plains below the Andes at that point. And Mendoza during the high season is usually sunny and warm and beautiful, so definitely bring some clothes for being in the hot sunshine. And it's a beautiful tree-lined street city, very peaceful and calm. It's a great place to stage for heading up Aconcagua. But days 1 and 2, you'll travel, and then you'll want to arrive sometime at least by the morning of day 2, and we will have a gear check in the afternoon of day 2 at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It's our first meeting as a group. I do highly suggest, if you have time in your schedule and life, to get there a day ahead of time. That is really highly recommended, because oftentimes there just can be complications in travel, not oftentimes, but sometimes with luggage and flight connections and whatnot. And so you'll feel a lot better if you have an extra day of time in there to coordinate your arrival if you can. Otherwise, day 2 of the itinerary, we meet at about 3 p.m. and we have a gear check. And so what that means is we bring all the gear that we're going to use on the mountain with us to a kind of a conference room in the Hyatt, usually is the lodging that we use in Mendoza. It's a beautiful hotel. And we will go through everything piece by piece by piece, make sure we have the gear for the mountains. Definitely do a really good job of taking a look at the gear list that we have on the website and bring everything on that gear list. And then if you have any questions about any of the pieces, things need to be really, really specific to our objective. So you can always get in touch with the office. Very much encourage you to do so if there's stuff that you're not sure about which thing you need to bring. And so we need to bring everything with us to Argentina, because the gear that's available in Argentina, there's quite a few things that we can replace, but they are subpar quality and much more expensive. And then there's a couple things like good quality double boots, your full zip insulated pants. Those kind of things are actually just not available in Argentina at all. So really do a good job with the gear list, and then we'll go through it piece by piece at the gear check. We will also go over all of the details of logistics, how life's going to start out on the mountains, and things you need to know to organize for the first couple of days of the trip as we get going. So we'll talk about that at the gear check. And then by the time we leave the gear check, we will have organized ourselves the way that we need to be organized in order to leave town the next day. So day 3 of the expedition. Oh, one more thing before I switch sides. The picture there of the food. Mendoza has a really vibrant culinary scene, and so we will actually, after our gear check, we will go out to dinner and enjoy a really, really good meal in Mendoza. The food there is wonderful, so that's another good time to start to get to know each other and share a bit on before we head out into the mountains. But the next day, then we'll be all ready to leave town. We'll leave Mendoza and head out to the spot called Penitentes, which used to be a little ski resort town. And now it hardly ever gets enough snow to run and anything resembling a ski resort, but they've converted lodging there for climbers going up Aconcagua in what would be the summertime. And so we will head out of Mendoza, and it's about a 3.5, 4 hour drive time to get ourselves to Penitentes. We'll make a stop on the way for lunch. Usually that's in Uspallata. So you can see there we'll drive through a bit of mountains, which are called the Front Range, closer to Mendoza, then up to a bit of a plateau of higher elevation, and then further into the main part of the Andes in that area. And things you should know about luggage, because there's a lot of logistics when we start off on this trip and some sorting of luggage and where everything needs to go, which we will do in Mendoza. But just so you kind of have a heads up, we will separate out in Mendoza anything that needs to stay at the hotel. So your warm weather clothes for hanging out in Mendoza, and your, if you brought a laptop, those kind of things, anything that doesn't need to come up to the mountain at all, we can definitely leave at the hotel in Mendoza. Even though we won't be back for a couple weeks, they're super used to storing that stuff for us. We can leave that in Mendoza, we'll separate that out. And then we will separate out a duffel that is going to be carried by the mules as soon as we move into the park. So our first few days of trekking in the park, either route that you're doing, your duffel will be carried in by mules and you won't have access to it during the day, and then you will again, or sorry, you will again in the nighttime. So we'll separate out that duffel for the mules, and then we'll separate out a trekking pack with the supplies that we need for trekking throughout the day. And that'll be your water, snacks, some layers that are appropriate for the elevation that we're at on the mountain, just a couple of sort of emergency pieces like a headlamp, a very, very pared down first aid kit, maybe a couple things for blisters, a band-aid, that sort of thing. So it'll be a light pack of about it shouldn't weigh more than 15 pounds at that stage of the journey that you'll be separating out for your trekking pack. So we'll do all of that in Mendoza. Don't worry about how you're going to separate it out. We'll go through it exactly and give you lists for what things need to be wearing. We'll do that at the gear check. But then when we get to Penitentes to spend the night there, we'll actually drop off our duffel. That'll be one night that you don't have access to it, because then the mules are going to go up into the park early in the morning, and then we'll see our duffel again in the nighttime. But so we'll leave Mendoza, spend the night in Penitentes. We'll stay at a hostel there. You will still have access to a shower. We can get in bed, so we'll get one last shower, beds. We'll have meals there, all of that before we head up into the mountains. And that whole gear shuffle that I just talked about is pretty complicated. And so for those of you who want to look into it a little bit more before arriving in Mendoza, there is a section on the website. If you go to the gear list and then the overview tab, next to it, there's a luggage logistics tab. And that tab gives a breakdown of where all the luggage is going to be divided up and what pieces of luggage you can bring to make that division easier. So you can look through that and just get a head start on how that's all going to come together. But either way, we'll help you through all the pieces once you're in Mendoza. But that's kind of a overlooked tab on the website there, so you can check that one out. Okay, so we have 2 routes up the mountain that are different in style and how the logistics come together. And I'm going to talk about each route separately. We'll address each route separately. The two are the Vacas route, which is blue on this map here, and then what we call the normal route, which is yellow on this map. So the blue is the Vacas, and then the yellow is the normal route. And for both of those routes, we'll start with the Vacas route. But both of those routes, we spend the night in Penitentes, and then the next day, we actually start our time on the mountain. All of the logistical pieces and the travel and all of that will be done, and we actually move into the mountain on day 4 of your trip. So for the Vacas route, those first few days involve a 24-mile trek into Plaza Argentina, which you can see maybe with my cursor there. There we go. Plaza Argentina on the mountain, and that is your main base camp on the mountain for the Vacas route. And you'll take 24 miles of trekking to get there and 3 days. So your first camp will be in Pampa de Leñas, which is right here. And then you'll travel up the next night to Casa de Piedra. And then the night after that, you'll arrive into Plaza Argentina. And actually, I'll give you, there you go. You can take a look at the mileage and elevation gain for those days. So you're looking at 6 to 7 hours of trekking every day, somewhere in there, to get to the camps. And we're just hiking our way up the valley. There are camps. The spots are there's some infrastructure there, but not anything that's overly done. There's dome tents that we'll be able to use to have meals in. But you'll set up tents and we'll move our way through those camps up the valley. It's a beautiful hike. The picture there is actually the crossing of the river on the last day of that approach hike. We can usually coordinate with the mule drivers, the arrieros, to cross the river because it's cold in the early morning to cross the river on their mules, which is a fun little piece of that itinerary. And then we arrive in Plaza Argentina. So this picture here is actually a view from up above the camp. We're looking down on it. We're coming up from the first upper mountain camp and then heading back down to the camp. So that area you can see there with yellow and red all dotted through, those are the structures of the camp. And that camp is one of our oases of luxury on the mountain. It's this little city that pops up for the season every year. And you can see in the other picture that we have these dome tents with tables, chairs, eating utensils. We have an entire staff of folks there cooking meals for us, and they do an amazing job. They are very creative, and the food is wonderful. And so that stuff will be taken care of with food. And then you have the opportunity to shower there before we move on and move further up the mountain. And there's Wi-Fi available. So it's a little oasis of luxury that we get to use as this launching pad point for the upper mountain. So on Aconcagua, I'll refer to the upper mountain as anywhere that's above our camps of Plaza Argentina on the Vacas side or Plaza Mulas, which would be the counterpart on the normal route side. So the mountain above those areas, it's a oasis of luxury before we head further up the mountain. And here's a bit of a map of what that upper mountain area looks like. So from Plaza Argentina in the blue over here, uh, we use three upper mountain camps, and that's the same for either the normal route or the Vacas route. You'll have three upper mountain camps. So on the Plaza Argentina side, Camp 1 is right here, sits at about 16,300 feet, and then Guanacos at about 18,000 feet, and then Cholera here at about 19,600 feet. And these three camps, we will move up through them in sort of a caterpillar fashion on the Vacas route, where we're doing carrying of loads. So what that'll look like is we arrive at Plaza Argentina. Immediately after arriving there, we get a rest day. The next day after that, usually, we'll do a carry to Camp 1. So we carry supplies up to Camp 1 and then come back down to sleep at Plaza Argentina, take another rest day there, and then usually move up to Camp 1. And then to move our way further up to the Guanacos, the cholera camps, we will do some sort of a version of that again, where we will do a carry, a rest, a move. The order of that can be changed around based on weather, the group's needs, but some sort of a combination of carry supplies up, come back down and sleep at the camp we've carried from, take a rest day, and then go ahead and move up to that next camp, and then caterpillar our way up to the next camp beyond that. And so the Vacas route does not include any built-in porter support for any of the gear. So that means that the group is sort of a capsule that is moving their stuff together. And so that includes both your personal gear, which is everything that was on that gear list that you brought, your sleeping bag, your layers, your extra snacks that you brought for yourself personally, those things. And then group gear, which would be things like the fuel, the group breakfasts and dinners, the gear that we need as a group. Those are the group gear pieces. And so we will coordinate together to move all those pieces, bump them up the mountain as we need. And we get to a camp and we're thinking about moving to the next camp. We'll have fuel, we'll have food supplies that we don't need at that camp. So we can go ahead and bump those up preemptively to the next camp and then pull along the rest of it the day that we move. And the exact coordination of that depends on weather and whatnot, but that's how we caterpillar our way up the mountain on the Vacas route side. And this is what your upper mountain days will look like. We move our way slowly uphill in a fairly increasingly oxygen poor environment, carrying up our loads and enjoying the views. And the amount of days we'll be up there will be between, on the itinerary, it's days 10 to 18 or maybe up to day 20. So both of the routes have 2 extra weather days built in. A common challenge on Aconcagua is finding a weather window for the summit that allows us to have wind speeds that are an appropriate speed for making a summit attempt. Usually that's the weather concern that we have, but it can be snowfall or other things going on. And so we have basically 2 days to play with in there to figure out a best movement strategy for our team. And it could be that somewhere lower down the mountain we can't move up because of weather. It could be that we can save those days for somewhere higher up, be waiting higher up for a better summit window, but we've got a couple of days to play with the weather up there. And then this is what, just a little bit more of a zoomed in on the upper mountain. So take a look at this here. The Vacas route is still in blue over there. And it's off on, if you can see my cursor, off on this side here. And then the yellow is the normal route. Now, from Cholera up, you'll see a green line. And green is because from Cholera up, you are sharing the exact same route to the summit. With the normal route, Vacas route, they have the exact same high camp and the exact same summit day. So those two routes come together at Cholera. And Cholera is a cold and windy spot. So both routes, you will not be spending more than 2 nights at Cholera. It's not a spot to wait out the weather. It's too high up there and too fierce. If we're waiting out the weather, we'll wait out the weather in a camp just below Cholera. But 2 nights up there because you have the night that you arrive, and then you have the summit day, and then you'll come back down to Cholera to sleep before moving your way down the mountain after the summit day. Summit day on Aconcagua is starts the hiking times, or the time that we start actually walking in the morning, is usually about 5 a.m. And then it's 8 to 9 hours of up travel and another 4 to 5 down from the summit. So it's a 12 to 14 hour day. It's a very, very long day. And I would say on Aconcagua, the summit day is a pretty good step up from a lot of the other days along the way on the trip. It's a pretty good day. And some sections of the summit day that you might have heard of. We will leave from Colorado at about 19:06, and we will head up from there. One of the spots that's a good break spot after that is Independencia, which is 21,000 feet. And then we will head up to, from there, shortly after there, there's a spot that's called the Door to the Wind. And it's actually, I can point to it here, it's right here, where you pop out on this big face that catches the wind coming from the coast. It's often a windier spot on the mountain. And then we enter the Traverse, if you've ever heard of these spots talked about, the Traverse. And that will bring us up to a spot here called the Cave. And the cave is about 22,000 feet. And the cave is, there's no actual cave there. There is just a wall that provides a little bit better protection from the wind there after coming off of that Traverse. So the cave, you're at about 22,000. And then you've got another 500 feet or so of an area called the Canaleta, which is this couloir that we zigzag our way up. Sometimes has snow in it, sometimes is more dry. And that gets us up to the shoulder, and then the last crest, the Guanacos crest, up to the summit itself. That's the route up to the summit. And of course, on the trip, when we get closer to summit day, we talk about all the nitty-gritty details of everything you need to know for a summit day, but that's just kind of a general overview. With any luck, we get to get up to the summit and see these views. The picture on the right is of the entire summit area. You can see it's not a small summit. There's lots of space there to be comfortable and look around and take photos. And the photo on the left, you can see a little bit of the south face of Aconcagua. It's a 9,000 foot face of rock and ice on the other side of the mountain. And from that high up, it's just amazing views. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous spot. So with any luck, we get to get up there. 22,841. And then for the Vacas route, so the summit is right up here. For the Vacas route, we then complete a 360 around the mountain. That's also one of the ways that the Vacas route is called. It's called the 360 because we actually connect a series of valleys around the mountain to do a 360 around the entire mountain. So we will actually then come down on the yellow here. You can see my cursor going all the way down the yellow. And we'll come out on what is the normal route side. The normal route comes up and down this side, but the Vacas then just uses this side as the down route. So we come down the yellow on our way out. from the summit down to Plaza de Mulas. So Summit Day, we'll do Summit Day, and then we'll spend the night after Summit Day in Cholera at 1906 still. And then the day after that, because there's no energy left to go any further on Summit Day. But the day after that, we'll get up and we'll hike down about 5,200 feet from Cholera to Plaza de Mulas. Plaza de Mulas sits at about 14,400 feet. And it's really only about a 4-hour hike down through the scree, even taking your time pretty well. So we'll get ourselves down to Plaza de Mulas, and then once again, you're at one of these little oases of luxury where you'll have that whole staff doing all the cooking, showers are available, Wi-Fi is available, those pieces of luxury further down on the mountain. And then the day after that, go ahead and we will hike from that point all the way out in one long day. Somewhere average around nine hours or so out to here where the park entrance is on the other side. We came in this side here where the blue is on the Vacas route, Punta de Vacas. And then this valley here is the Orcones Valley. So you'll come out the Orcones park entrance and then make that drive, about 3.5 hour drive back down to Mendoza on the same day. So the last day there is quite a long day again. And that's how the Vacas route comes together, and that's why it's also known as the 360. Come up one valley and then share the same summit route as the normal route does, and then come back down the normal route side. So let's move on to the normal route now. And the normal route is yellow in this graph here. For the normal route, you will also spend that night in Penitentes after we leave Mendoza at about 8,600 feet. And then we'll take like a 10-minute drive up to the park entrance. Either route you're doing, it's like a 10-minute drive to your park entrance, 10-minute drive to the park entrance. Do our check-in with the park rangers and then start hiking up. The hike, the first day on the normal route will be up to Confluencia, which translates to confluence. And you can see the confluence of two valleys here. And that's how that spot gets its name. And that's at about 11,200 feet. And we will spend 2 nights there. And 2 nights there because we have the night that we arrive. And then the day after that, we get to do a hike up to the south face overlook. So you get to go up in this corner here. It's about 13,400 feet where we get up to. We'll spend the whole day hiking up there and then back down. And you get to get close to get a view up that south face of Aconcagua, which is that 9,000 foot face of wall and ice, which is one of the world's great mountain faces. And it's a pretty cool day to go up and see that overlook. And then we come back and we spend another day at Confluencia. Confluencia, once again, has all the domes, tables and chairs, folks cooking lovely meals for us, Wi-Fi, more of that luxury available. So 2 nights there. And then the next day we will hike from Confluencia all the way up to Plaza de Mulas. And that's about an 11-mile hike. And so it's another full day of hiking, somewhere around 9 hours or so, to hike our way up to Plaza de Mulas. I'm going to switch slides here. You can see a breakdown of how that all comes together, the distances and the elevation gain there. So you also spend 3 days, just like on the Vaca side, 3 days making your approach into camp. But we do it with just a little bit more luxury on that side because we're spending time at Confluencia. And then you get to see that south face overlook on her way up, and then we just hike up the valley, which you can see in this picture. The mountain in the back definitely is Aconcagua, and that's actually a little bit of the top of the south face that you can see in the photo. Okay, and then we make it to Plaza de Mulas. And so Plaza de Mulas is a much larger camp than the camp on the Vaca side. This is also looking at it from up above. And you can see it is quite a large camp there. Same services as on the Plaza Argentina side with the dome tents and all the luxuries that there are in these camps. And you're going to spend 5 nights here. And so 5 nights will be spent with 1 day we arrive, and then immediately after arriving we have a rest day. And then normally the day after that, if weather and everything's cooperating, we'll go up to, you can see it back in the corner here, if you can see my cursor. We'll go up to Mount Bonete. And Bonete is a separate peak that we get to summit on this route. So it's actually another summit opportunity that's available. And this view is actually, the picture, the main photo is looking back down the valley that you hike up on the main route. And so Cerro Bonete, it's a little over 16,000 feet. It's a good way to acclimate and then hopefully get the opportunity to get in another summit and do some practice for the skills we'll need for moving higher up the mountain. After we do our day on Bonete, which you can see is the red flag down in this corner here, that's Bonete, come back down to Plaza de Mulas, and then normally the day after that we will do a carry up to Canada, which is our first camp on the upper mountain. The normal route also uses those three upper mountain camps, Canada, Nido, Cholera will be the progression. So we'll do a day where we hike up to Canada, it's a climatization hike, or you can carry also some of your own personal gear up there, anticipating our move the day, a couple days after that. So we do a hike up to Canada. It's about 16,600 feet, and then we'll come back down and sleep at Plaza de Mulas, and then normally take a second rest day in Plaza de Mulas, get in one last shower, and then we will start moving our way on the upper mountain. Upper mountain again being all the terrain that is above Plaza de Mulas on this side of the mountain. So mm, yeah, we'll go back to that side. I'll show you the map for a second here. But we'll move up to Canada Camp. Normally, if weather is cooperating, we will spend one night at Canada Camp when we actually make our move up there. And then we will move the next day up to Nido de Condores, and that is at about 18,300 feet. And then we will plan usually for a rest day at that camp, let our bodies kind of catch up to all that elevation gain that we've done. And then the day after that, we would move up to our highest camp on the Mount Cholera. So all of that, once again, being very weather dependent. It'll be days 11 to 16 or 18 on the mountain because we also on this side have those two weather days that we can play with. Ideally, if we can, we'll save them to where we're somewhere high up on the mountain and just sort of stage to move ourselves up to Cholera and get into for a summit bid and back down. If we have to use them earlier for other weather happening, then we do that too. This photo is actually from Cholera, and you can see some of the start of the way up to the summit. We zigzag up that slope that is directly behind the tents in this photo. We zigzag up it, and then the rest of the route disappears from view from the hike camp. But this is actually a picture of Cholera looking cold and frozen. And then on our way, the way down, so is the same schedule as we have on the Vacas now. So we will do our summit attempt, come back down to Cholera, spend that second night there. And then the day after that, we will make our way, hike all the way down that 5,000 plus feet to Plaza de Mulas, spend one night there, and then hike our way all the way out the next day to the park entrance, the Orcones park entrance, and then take that drive all the way back to Mendoza. So couple of things to point out here. On the Vaca side, you will have mules carrying your duffels all the way up to Plaza Argentina. And on the normal route side, mules carry the duffels all the way up to Plaza de Mulas. That's the same on both routes. However, on the Vaca side, there is no built-in porter support for moving any of our personal or group gear. So after Plaza Argentina, you're moving as a team, all of that gear up and down the mountain, back to Plaza de Mulas. And actually, when you are on the Vacas route, your duffels will stay in Plaza Argentina with any extra bits and pieces that you needed for showering or other stuff that you won't need again. And when we know that we are going to be able to come up and over the other side, we'll send those with the mules all the way out and around, and they'll show up and be waiting for us in Plaza de Mulas on our way down. And on the normal route side, those duffels will just stay in Plaza de Mulas, and then we pick them up on our way down, and then the donkeys take the stuff out to the park entrance for us. So the difference with the normal route side is, though, once we get to Plaza de Mulas, there is built-in porter support into the trip price for the group gear. So that means on the normal route side, you are only responsible for moving up your personal gear, which is that gear that you brought that was on the gear list that is for your personal use. Your sleeping bag, your layers, your crampons, those things, you're responsible for moving those up. There's a major difference between the two routes. So let's break that down a little bit more, the difference between the Vacas and the normal route, because I know that's one of the huge decisions to make when signing up for contemplating an Aconcagua trip. A Vacas route trip is a different style on the mountain where it's a bit more of, you are a bit more self-supported on that side, and it's a better piece of preparation for if you're looking towards moving towards something like a Denali type climb in the future, where you know you're going to be hauling those heavy loads, moving that gear up the mountain and want practice with that and practice with hauling weight at a higher altitude and how that feels and how that all comes together. And you get the opportunity to participate in an expedition that is a different style in that way. And the Vacas also gives the opportunity to go up one side and then down the other side of the mountain, so you get to see both sides to it. On the flip side of that, if you do the normal route, then you get to see the south face overlook. You get the opportunity for one more separate summit in Mount Bonete. They're just different. There's not one that's better than the other. There's pros and cons to each, and it just really depends on the type of mountaineering experience that you're looking for. So know that the Vaca side is the more physically demanding side, but it also gives you better preparation for other endeavors in the future on bigger, higher mountains. So it involves more load hauling. So that means either route, on the days that you are hauling all of your personal kit, it's about 45 to 55 pounds is what the weight of your pack's going to be. There's just more days of hauling on the Vacas because you don't have that built-in porter support. And so there's about 7 days of hauling a 45 to 55 pound pack. And then on the normal route, it comes out to about 3 days. Those 3 days are from Canada to Nido, Nido to Colera, and then the descent. And the day that we make an acclimatization hike to Canada, you can actually carry part of your gear up there, stash it, and then carry the rest of it on the move day. So you have sort of a lighter pack weight for our actual move to Canada. So there's also the Vacas route. We spend more time on the upper mountain, and there's a few more days into the itinerary. It's about 23 days, including your travel time, so home to home. And if you're looking for something that's a little bit shorter, then the normal route is about a 21-day itinerary with all the travel time included. So also though, you do have the option to pay for porters on either route, either side. That is totally available for either route. So if you'd like to do the Vacas but not do the hauling and load carrying, also very accessible. Just know that purchasing porter support on the Vaca side is going to be more expensive because you have more days to cover there with load hauling, and then it's more economical, a little more accessible on the normal route side. But you do definitely have the option to purchase porter support on either side. So know that piece too. We'll dive a little bit more into porters and pack weights and what that looks like. So whenever the mules are carrying your duffels, your day pack should weigh around 15 pounds. Like we said, food, water, some layers that you need for the day, not too much else. And then either route, if you are not using porter support, any of the days that we're actually moving on that upper mountain and carrying loads, it's going to be about 45 to 55 pounds will be the weight of your pack. Just depends on what you're hauling for that day, what your personal gear selections were, somewhere in there. I keep weighing people's packs every year and making sure I'm kind of in the right range, and that's what their packs are really coming out to. And if you hire porter support, porters can carry about 20 kilos, which is about 44 pounds as a maximum. They don't go above that at all, so you have that 44-pound maximum. And you can purchase porter support on either route. It's just a bit more accessible of a price on the normal route due to the number of days, and then it's a bit more expensive on the Vacas route. And you can purchase porters. You will have the opportunity at the gear check to purchase the porter support, or you can purchase porter support at the base camp too, either of those spots. And we don't have the prices for this season yet, but Alpine Ascents, they will send out an email to you as soon as we have those prices, so you can make plans and kind of decide if that's something that you want to do or not. And then you usually have the opportunity to decide, I want porter support for part of it, but maybe not all of it. Say, some folks say, you know what, I don't want to do the down carry of 5,000 feet with my load after having summited the day before, hopefully. So you can also do a purchase for just the down, say. You have options in there for porters. Because that's also a really important piece to kind of suss out when you're thinking about different routes and what you want to do. Okay, a few gear tips. Like we mentioned, really look at the gear list carefully and closely because it's going to be pretty hard to get the quality of gear in Mendoza if you forget something. And I often think about some of those really, really key items that I know I can't replace in Mendoza. I will bring them with me in my carry-on luggage. So those double boots, which are really key to the enjoyment of your journey. Your insulated pants, I will carry those in my carry-on luggage. I won't send those checked just in case. Some of those key items. I get really nervous too if I see folks arrive to the gear check with really shiny new boots. Before you come to Mendoza, take the time to spend some time in your double boots. And that's as much a process of breaking in your boots as getting your feet broken into being used to being in double boots and how that feels. If you don't practice in them, you're going to be a lot more prone to blisters and issues with your feet on the trip. So definitely practice being in those boots and carrying some weight while being in those boots too before you come to Argentina. Make sure your down parka, your warm layers are enough. You can get in touch with the office if you're not sure about your down parka selection. Aconcagua can be a very cold mountain, so definitely make sure that those pieces are right. Make sure that your expedition mitts, that you can fit a light fleece liner glove inside your expedition mitts without any cutting off of your circulation, pinching of your fingers. And I'm not talking about the built-in liner that like Velcros into that big glove. You need to be able to pull off that mitt and not go to bare skin. So make sure a liner can fit inside there. Make sure that your system for your balaclava and your face protection covers up every little teeny tiny corner of your skin. It's something that we'll practice up on the mountain, but try and practice it at home. You can get in a mirror and make sure you can cover up every piece of your skin for a summit day kind of scenario. Think about the pack you're bringing to, and all of this is on the gear list, but you don't bring a pack that's less than 75 liters unless you're planning to use porters. At that point, if you're planning to use full porter assistance up and down the mountain, then you can bring a pack that is smaller. There's guidelines for that on the gear list on the website. Uh, for some reason, I often have folks come to the gear check and say, well, the thermos was optional. It's not listed as optional on the gear list, so really pay attention and make sure you bring a 1 liter thermos with you. We'll need it for the summit day to make sure that we have liquid water available to us on the summit day. It can be very, very cold. Bring an extra this Nalgene with you if you drink quite a bit in your everyday life. It's very dry in Aconcagua. You'll be drinking even more. Don't bring sunglasses that you just feel like, ah, these are dark sunglasses that I use out recreating a lot. Bring actual glacier sunglasses, mountaineering sunglasses. It's very important on Aconcagua. Other things like the trekking poles. I've been seeing a lot of folks lately bring the, I think they're called Z poles, the poles that are not the collapsible 3-section poles, and those poles are not actually adjustable in their height. And when we're moving slowly uphill with packs at high altitude, it's really helpful to be able to adjust your poles shorter. And those collapsible trekking poles, the folding poles, sorry, they don't allow that option to really adjust the height on them. So bring a pole if you have the option. It's one that you can actually adjust the height on it with those 3-section collapsible trekking poles. And then think about some extra pieces for taking care of your skin up there. It is very cold, dry air, and it just can be very, very harsh on your skin. Things don't heal well. So bring a few extra things like Band-Aids, antibiotic ointment, to Vaseline to take care of dry lips, nose, hands. There's a ton more information on the Alpine Ascents website. You'll find information on there for detailed training plans. There's a huge section. It's very detailed, very helpful. Check that out. You'll need to plan for the permit cost for entering the park. There's some information for planning for just other bits of miscellaneous expenses. There's information on the supplemental food snacks that you want to bring. You can get a calculation there of what just some supplements that you should bring and then what's provided by Alpine Ascents. All of those details. So there's a ton more on the website for some of those things. So check that all out. And then finally, just a few things that I've noticed. I've guided on Aconcagua every year, a couple trips since 2018. And after spending a bunch of time up there, there's a few tips that I think are super helpful when you're prepping. We all know that we need to train for an expedition like this, get physically ready, be strong, but it's super important to also be mentally ready. Just be really attentive to both your personal physical and mental self-care are huge keys to success on this mountain. So preparing and then taking good care of yourself while you're on the mountain. So mentally preparing beforehand that it's going to be a long expedition where you will not be closely connected to family, friends, your normal routine. It's going to be cold. It might be, it's often windy. We're going to be acclimated to high altitude. That's uncomfortable. We'll be uncomfortable up there, and being prepared for that, I think, is a piece that is sometimes overlooked. It's a long period of time on the mountain. And so take some things with you that motivate you, rejuvenate you. It could be podcasts, music, Kindle, Bring card games. A lot of groups have had a ton of card game fun on the in the mountains. Pay close attention to taking care of yourself up there on the mountain. Uh, Here, hold on one second. Let me kill this phone. Let me kill this phone. Okay, sorry. I thought I had all the phones killed. So the other thing too is just to make sure that you take care of yourself every single bit of the day. And that means taking care of staying properly hydrated so you don't get behind on your acclimatization, staying on top of not getting sunburnt in the beginning of the trip because then your skin doesn't heal very well. And then you are more prone to cold injuries, making sure you are eating enough to really stay nice and strong and all the things so that you can get up to the day in Colorado where we're ready to go for the summit and you can say, hey, I feel strong and prepped and ready and ready to go up to the summit. But that takes just really paying attention to every teeny tiny little piece all the way along the way. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here if I can. There we go.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much, Rachel. We have a couple questions, but I just want to say thanks again for taking the time to walk us through, what to expect on Aconcagua. So a couple questions that people have is, how do we access water while we're up on the mountain? And is hot water available at camps? Can you talk us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you will get hot water everywhere on the mountain. There will be hot water at breakfast time and then at dinner time for hot drinks. And then there will be water available also in the morning and in the evening at camps in order to fill up your water bottles. And where we'll source the water is different for every camp. Our more established camps lower on the mountain have a whole water system where they pipe in water to those camps. But and then up on the mountains, it's usually snow, or there's some areas sometimes of the year where there's some streams. But either way, guides will collect water for the team, and then you will bring your own water purification to purify that water in your bottles when we're able to get it to you in some other form, put it in your bottle, and then you purify it in your bottle.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Another question, everybody wants to bring their phones these days. And, is there charging systems on the mountain? Let's say I want to text or, have my phone to take pictures. Can you talk a little about how I can keep my phone charged up there?
Good question. So at the Confluencia Plaza de Mulas, Plaza Argentina, there's a whole solar system. And so our dining tents will have power strips in there that you can use to charge things. You just need to bring your box, and it does not need to be an Argentina specific one. So not just the USB, but the little box that you would use to plug into the wall. They have universal plugins there, so you can plug in and charge things there. At our high camps, there is no charging capacity whatsoever. So if you'd like to keep your stuff charged on the upper mountain, then you can bring a battery pack. You can bring your own solar charger. So on the upper mountain, then you're on your own for charging devices. But there is charging capacity available at those more main camps.
Great. That's good to know. That way I can have my phone charged there. Somebody asked about tents, and I can just tell people that the tents are included, so that's why they're not on the gear list. The tents are already set up at the camps along the way, and no need to worry about carrying that on the mountain. Somebody asked a little bit about the speed ascent option, and I can kind of walk through that. That trip is designed for individuals who have prior mountaineering experience at altitude. And while the trip is substantially shorter, 9 days on the mountain, the key is that people will need to have a pre-acclimatized plan, and they will need to submit that to Alpine Ascents. The speed ascent climbers we have this year are using a hypoxic tent for 6 weeks prior, and then we'll be flying down, and we pretty much will walk right to Confluencia and then right to base camp, Plaza de Mulas, and then from there start to make the summit attempt from there. Happy to walk more about the speed ascent. If people have questions, they can email us at climb@alpineascents.com. Let's see, another question that came up is, do we need crampons on the mountain, and how often have you used them, Rachel?
So Aconcagua is sometimes there are seasons where it's very dry. Sometimes there are seasons where it actually snows quite a bit in the season. We definitely need to bring the crampons, and I have used them on every summit day except for I think there was one where we didn't use them. but pretty much always on the summit day. And then there are definitely conditions, weather conditions, where we will be using them before that as well. So we
Yeah.
need them, but we don't actually end up using them very often. I mean, sorry, many days on the trip. Let me say it that way.
But when you need them, you kind of need them, especially on summit day when it's firm and icy. It just depends on each trip.
Mhm.
So somebody asked a really good question about, what's the process for, checking in on climbers, for altitude illness. And all of our guides have wilderness first responders and medical training like that. We don't necessarily test looking at somebody's blood pressure cuff because things like that aren't accurate at altitude. But the guides are all trained in looking at things like what are the signs and symptoms to altitude, what's their common demeanor, how are they functioning, along with their O2 stat level, which is measured on a finger. But instead of looking at one specific thing, we're taking a larger holistic approach to how is that individual doing? Are they eating well, sleeping? How do they feel? Most people who have issues at altitude will start out with a headache and things like that. Rachel, on the topic of altitude, somebody asked about Diamox. Do you recommend using it? Recommend bringing it? Can you speak a little bit to that?
So there is a list actually on the gear list of some different prescription medications that's recommended that you bring on the trip. So I would definitely go and talk to your doctor and see if they can give you a prescription for those, what's appropriate for you. But the Diamox, definitely go speak with your doctor and get a prescription for that. And then we don't normally recommend that folks take it prophylactically, but we do really want folks to have it on the mountain with them, available to use as a tool. Should we have something come up that we can potentially try and use Diamox to help fix up there. But bring it with you, and then we don't normally recommend take it prophylactically, but we can perhaps use it as a tool if we need to.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Somebody asked another question about double boots. La Sportiva and Scarpa are the main manufacturers out there. If neither of those work for you, Loa is another big boot manufacturer out of Italy, and they tend to make a little bit wider boots. So if you're feeling like the Sportiva or Scarpas don't fit your feet, maybe look at Loa. But it's definitely, like Rachel mentioned, really key to have the boots ahead of time. We don't want people to get blisters down there that can impact somebody's trip. One last question, Rachel, is people were wondering how do you go to the bathroom up there? I mean, the bathroom discussion, people don't like talking about it, but it's a reality. Can you talk about how we remove the human waste and keep the mountain really clean and hygienic up there?
Oh, people love talking about the bathroom situations.
Yeah.
No, so at our more established, the camps, the Confluencia Plus y Mulas, those ones, we have either a pit toilet system for each camp, or there's another one that has a flush toilet system. So there are actual bathrooms set up at those camps. On the upper mountain, we have bathroom structures. So these little, like a very, very mini dome tent, where we have a system in there with a bucket and bags. So it's actually really nice to get out of the wind and have a really nice private spot to use the bathroom. It's a really good system we've got up there at the camps, all the way up and down the mountain. And then if you have a need between camps, we will provide everybody with some sort of a WAG bag, blue bag system for an emergency between camps. You can use that and then take it with you to our next camp and deposit it there.
And I know I said final question there, but the last one that I get quite often is like, I don't speak any Spanish. Should I be intimidated to come to, Aconcagua? Am I going to be overwhelmed? Am I going to be able to communicate? How is it if you don't speak any Spanish at all?
You will be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. On the mountain, the guides will speak that are chosen to their Alpine Ascents guides. Part of the way that they're chosen in that role is for their English language abilities, and so they will be able to communicate and explain all the things that need to be communicated fully in English. Yeah, you'll be perfectly fine. Yep.
Great. Yeah, well, thank you all for the time today. If you have any questions or we weren't able to answer your questions today, please email us at climb@alpineascents.com. Rachel will be leading 2 trips this year. She also leads expeditions to Bolivia, Kilimanjaro. She guides here in Washington and Denali. So thank you very much, Rachel, and thank you all for joining us today.